Everybody know this meeting starts at 6?
I'm trying. Can you hear, Ken, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Paul. I can't see you, but I
You're on
can.
mute. You're on mute. You're doing a Peter Hayes. You're on mute. I miss Peter.
I don't want you to see me, but you can hear me.
We can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
Good thing you couldn't hear all the stuff we were saying about you just now, Councilor Clucci.
I'm quite certain that's correct.
I haven't had any attack.
Phones would be blowing up.
Oh, Tony, I missed that.
I think this is the first time I've actually been remote for a hybrid meeting. It's awkward.
I
And
didn't,
you too.
yeah. I didn't have time to take a shower, comb my hair, and change my clothes. I've been in, work's been just brutal. Brutal.
Sorry to hear that.
Well, hey, 8 more months I retire, 7 more months.
Okay, the countdown begins then.
And I'm gonna move my office in with Tom, sit beside Tom.
Oh yeah, municipal work.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. Let's straighten a few things out, he and I.
He's got a big conference room there, you know. I think there's plenty of room.
He does. I could bring my dog.
Yep.
Could look out the window and just vision the future.
Exactly.
Pontificate. Wow. A long time since I saw that view.
Somebody's there.
Who's that?
Is that John Anderson?
I think Jean Marie's going in.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
She passed her 14-day after her second back, so.
Oh, I'm feeling bad now.
Yeah, I see.
Wednesday, April 14th. 21 special town council meeting of Scarborough, Maine. First item is the pledge of allegiance.
Of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Second item is roll call. Tony?
Counselor Clucci,
Here.
Counselor Anderson,
Here.
Counselor Johnson,
Here.
Hamel,
Here.
and Chairman Johnson.
Here. And before we get started, just bear with me. I'm bringing Councilor Gleisten into the meeting. And I'm going to actually do something a little unusual. I'm going to request we take a 5-minute recess simply because one of our counselors is on the way. And since this is the first reading of the budget, I think we probably would all agree we want 7 of us here. So without any objection, just a quick 5-minute recess while Councilor Caterina gets up to town hall. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, with that, I'll see everybody in 5 minutes.
So did you get confirmation from
Okay, thank you, everybody, for their patience. We don't have our seventh counselor, but we have a couple of amendments to get through, so we think we'll just talk slow and hopefully she'll get here before the vote shows up. But town business awaits. So here we go. We are on to the first order of the evening is order number 21036. It's the first reading and to schedule a public hearing on the proposed 2022 municipal school budget. I will be offering an amendment before we discuss it, just for simplicity's purposes, a different wording. But before we do that, town manager, would you like to tee this up, or would you want us to go right into it? It's up to you. Okay, fair enough. So with that, do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Okay. And if it is okay with everybody, I'm going to just offer an amendment because it's really just an amendment to the order. And it's all this, it's essentially the same thing. I would like to offer an amendment to strike the language to order number 21037 and to replace it with move approval on the request to sign the, nope, excuse me. Replace it with act to accept the submission of the fiscal year 2022 budget from the town manager pursuant to section 502 of the town charter and approve the first reading and schedule a public hearing on the proposed 2022 municipal school budgets for Wednesday, May 5th, 2021. So I offer this amendment. All this simply does is to clarify to us and the public that according to charter, we have a 60-day window to essentially adopt a budget at a second reading. This just assures us and the public that our 60-day time clock starts today. So with that, could I get a second? Second. Any discussion on my amendment? Seeing none, Tody, could you call the vote, please?
Counselor Pucci,
Just a point of order. Was there a second? Did I miss
yes,
that?
there was.
Okay, sorry.
Counselor Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Gleisteen,
Yes.
Counselor Anderson,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
and Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we're back to the main motion as amended. And so we'll open this up to discussion. I would like to get to the public, so I think I reversed my order. So without any objections, I'll go to the public to make sure that anybody that wants to speak to the public. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm throwing a little bit off my game today. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak? Ms. Seither, you are going to be promoted to panelist, so your camera will be on. You know the drill. She was ready.
Hi, guys.
Good. Yep.
April Seither, 14 Huntley Drive. I will be speaking in my role as chair of the Scarborough School Board tonight. I will say that the motion, the amendment to the main motion that is going to be proposed later on, after working with this group for a couple of years now, comes as no major surprise. So that's probably progress. That being said, it is still and remains a difference of opinion that I do not agree with in terms of how we operate. And really the main reason for that is because it puts the school board in a really challenging place when the town council tonight will reduce the net appropriation by $3.4 million. And the school board has our public hearing tomorrow evening. And that puts our constituents in a really difficult place in terms of how to make public comment when we're not sure if we're going to be given more direction or when we're going to be given more direction by the town council in terms of what our ask is in terms of contributing to that reduction of the proposal. And so that is my opposition to the amendment, respectfully submitted. And, you know, just as a point of information that, you know, this year's school budget first reading proposal is in line with previous year's net budget requests. So while we do have some restoration to do on the school side as a result of last year's budget, which was a reduction in what we would normally be allocated by the tax request, it's really not through the moon. And so I would ask the town council think, carefully and considerately, as you always do, about where that $3.4 million is ultimately going to come from. And just, make sure that the restoration of the municipal budget, which I am also firmly in support of, doesn't inadvertently come out of the school budget, as long as we're pinned to that 3% mill rate goal. And with that, I will wrap it up. I want to say one more thing, which is last week when Chairman Johnson promoted me to panelist, I was engaged, but I was putting my toddler to bed. And so that is on Counselor Johnson for erroneously promoting me, but I promise you I'm here and I'm watching and I'm listening. Thanks, guys.
Listen, with all the hands going up, everybody's order changes. You know what it's like, Ms. April. Thank you. Any more in attendance would like to speak to this? Okay, with that being said, we are on the main motion as amended. And again, the amendment was just to clarify the clock. I know Councilor Clucci does have an amendment to offer up, but is there any discussion before he does so? Okay, Councilor Clucci, do you want to offer up your amendment?
Yeah, is it possible to bring it up on the screen so people can
Yeah,
read
do you
it as
have
well?
sharing abilities or I can give them?
Yeah, I think I can do it.
Oh, yeah, it might be better for you because this computer is not. It's not
Okay.
plugged into my email right now.
So you tell me, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll get to the amendment. So I'm offering this amendment. As you know, the budget process is a long one, and there's ebbs and flows in it. So we've presented with a proposed budget by the Board of Education and the school board that is consistent with what the Finance Committee had requested for first reading, but it's out of line with the overall town council goal of a 3% impact on the taxpayer, or no greater than a 3% impact on the taxpayer. So we have a whole budget review process that's scheduled, that's going to take place over the next couple of months, that is going to help bring us from what's been proposed to the town council goal. All this amendment does is, let's say upfront that this is what we're comfortable collecting from the taxpayer. And so I'll read the motion. It's a motion to amend the main motion and establish a new net appropriation to be collected from taxation of $73,724,988. Such amount to represent an increase of 3.478 million from that was adopted in fiscal year 2021, but a reduction of 3.4 million or 4.4% under that being proposed by the Board of Education and Town Manager. Approval of this amendment will start the FY22 budget review process with a mill rate impact to the taxpayer that is less than 3%, consistent with the town council adopted goal. Approval of this amendment will likely necessitate further adjustments to be made at second reading that will align budget appropriations with the amount collected from taxation. With that, I'd like to offer that this motion.
Thank you, sir. And is there a second?
Second.
And discussion on the amendment? I'll just pause for 1 second until Councilor Clucci stops sharing his screen.
I'm working on it. There.
Okay, anybody would like to speak? Councilor Caterina, then Councilor Hamel.
Yeah, I'm sorry I was late. I had my schedule screwed up, but that's not unusual. I think this makes some sense. When it was originally proposed, I had a discussion with Mr. Clucci about it because I know in a previous council, a counselor did this, and at the time it seemed like it didn't leave wiggle room, or it was too boxing people in. However, I think, given people's concerns about the budget and where we're at, I could support this right now. Again, hopefully we'll come down to that. But I also don't want to eviscerate anything in the budget. So, because we do have a restoration year here. And I do know there are a lot of unknowns, so.
Thank you. Counselor Hamel?
Yeah, thank you. I'm also in favor of this amendment proposed by Councilor Clucci. I think it's good for a couple of reasons. I think it's good for consistency's sake. We've had a pretty good track record in terms of targeting and trying to accomplish and successfully approving budgets the past 3 years, in the neighborhood of this figure. And I thought in particular this year, since we are going to be facing additional challenges of studying proposals for restoration, that we had a target that one, we would recognize, and two would be somewhat analogous to what we did last year, which was when we modeled 0% at the first read. So we ended up in a different place, but I think that this motion will facilitate our achieving that goal. I am sensitive to the concerns that were raised by Chair Sider, and understand that does put pressure on them. And we're on a seesaw every year in this process with the Board of Ed. But we also have a pretty good track record in terms of working through that with them as well. So I look forward to providing more, having more discussion around that point.
Thanks, sir. Counselor Anderson?
Yeah, I'm also supportive of this motion tonight. I think for me, this is a year of recovery, and I think it's probably going to take a couple of years to fully get to where we want to be as a community, as people kind of recover from the economy. And I think it's important, because we know people out there are still struggling, that we give them a commitment of what we can focus on. And this was our goal that we set out at the beginning of the year. And I think this is really just a reassertion of that goal, that we're committed to try and get as close to that 3% as we can. So I'm supportive of it tonight.
Thank you. Any others? Counselor Clucci?
Yeah, I guess I'll just comment that, I think it's an appropriate action right now, given what we were presented with, because it's so far out of line with what we typically pass on to the taxpayer. That's not to say that there's no movement, or that I wouldn't be willing to move as we learn more and move through the process. So, but I don't know where the rest of the council is, and we've took formal action to adopt the 3% goal. So I thought that was an appropriate starting point for us right now.
Thank you. Counselor, anybody else? Counselor Gleising?
Yeah, I appreciate, this is one meeting, there's been a lot of additional discussion especially at the finance committee level. And I think, it's worth sharing some of that. There is a theme of getting back, some of the things that we looked at last year. We have the annual audit in, so that's something we're going to be taking a look at. And we've had some fairly large spending increases over the last few years, just in general. So I think the idea, and why are we able to do that and keep the tax rate the same? Well, there's two reasons. It depends on what we borrow, and then it depends on the new value that we're adding to town. And so, all these things go together that we consider, how are we managing the town? How are we managing growth? And what do the taxes look like? These things all do tie together. And so I think, it's going to be interesting to kind of look at, the increased revenue that we have coming in town, and to think about, the budget dollars, and how much the budget is actually raising. The mill rate is very important because that impacts everyone. But I know that the finance committee, and on the BOE side, we'll definitely focus on that. We'll be looking at the audit as well, and hopefully the whole council will. I think we're trying to slate a time for that to happen. That's been released today, and I think I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but Councilor Clucci, kind of described it to me pretty well. Is you know, if you had a change because of the pandemic, you know, what do we need to do? You know, how many years, you know, should we make that up over? And so I think that that's going to be part of the discussion too. Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? You know, so we did have a strange year last year, and I think this is a starting point, and we have to see where it goes from here. But I appreciate the folks who have put the time and thought into this amendment, especially Councilor Clucci. And you know, I would just encourage people, as I always do, you know, attend the finance committee meetings, because a lot of the discussion and the work gets done there. And that's where you can really pipe in and give us your input and your questions.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson.
Yeah, I'm going to support this. It is in line with our council goals that we set at the beginning of the year. And I was just, I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I was wondering either after the vote, but before we close, do you happen to have the schedule, that nice schedule that we've got that we could maybe just put on the screen? Because this is the beginning. And a lot of folks don't, you know, everybody on the call now, we understand how this works. A lot of people that tune in later don't. So I think it'd be beneficial if we could just pull that up and just walk through the dates, showing where people can, you know, join into the finance and the workshops, if it's available. If it's not, we'll give you a pass. Thank you.
We did speak, Ken, to some of the dates. I think there may be a few that are, I stopped by today and ended up picking up a budget book from Town Hall, and, you know, there may be a couple of adjustments to this just because of time, you know, so we don't have 7 hours of meetings, but so it's a little bit of a work in progress, but, you know, I'm sure Tom can address that. But yeah, the calendar is out there and it is being finalized, you know, as we speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a budget calendar prominently displayed on the budget. There is a budget calendar prominently displayed on the budget portal. I do expect there'll be a couple of moving dates, and perhaps as soon as tomorrow we'll have a final schedule up. But I think people can get a sense of where they can plug into the process already, and then we'll update as things are changing, even later on your agenda tonight, perhaps.
Okay, and just to follow up though, I'm going to recommend that when we meet, we have that, because I'll tell you, I've had 2 people call me and they watched the presentation, last week? It seems like forever ago. And they actually thought that's what the budget, you know, they were disappointed that it was very short and there was no discussion. So not everybody's privy to it. Not everybody drives to the web to find the portal. I get it, it's very robust. Doesn't hurt. Hold up a little thing and just tell people where the action is. That's all. It's a suggestion. Thank you.
Keep talking, Councilor Johnson. I can find it. Keep talking.
Where's my dog?
I'm not at my usual computer, so I'm usually
Okay,
quite
well,
quick
like
at
I
this.
said, we could,
But hold on, I'll make this happen. Would anybody else have something to add to Councilor Johnson's comments? And by that, I mean, would somebody add to Councilor Johnson's comment? Councilor Clucci?
You know, Paul, I think I can share it if you like.
Yes, thank you, sir. You should see me right here frantically trying to.
I haven't proofed this, but it was shared with me earlier today. So can you see this?
Ah, there we go.
So we started last week on April 7th with the presentation from the town manager and superintendent. Today, we're doing first reading. We're going to start our finance committee budget review on the 21st. We're going to review a couple of different department budgets in detail there. On the 28th, we're going to review the school department and public safety. So some of the details are now known that weren't when this was put together, but and there's going to be final adjustments that we make on the 12th. And May 5th, sorry, these are out of sequence, but is when we're actually today scheduling a public hearing on and joint workshop with the school board on the budget. You might have a different version, but I apologize. This is the one that I had handy.
I think this does the trick for right now, so thank you.
Yeah, that's up to date with the exception of some of the detail of finance.
Yeah, and I do know that there's one that I made a video on, and it's publicly released that has actually more of the finer dates in there as well. So it's the same timeline. It's a little busier, but it has a bunch of dates. So, and to Tom's point, it's always in flux. So I think Counselor Hamel and I discussed adding one more full council workshop towards the end of or as we get closer to second reading. So we're probably going to plug in a date there too. Thank you. Any other comments? No, my only personal comment is I think this year more than ever, I'm going to rely heavily on the finance committee's work and input. So I think you guys are burdened with a pretty tough task this year. But as we all know, our bandwidth is being stretched thin. So I appreciate the three of you working on it. 3% is probably more of a floor for me than it is a ceiling. My ceiling isn't very high, so I have no idea, but my mind's open to if it's 3 plus an investment or 2, then that's what it is. But I'm going to really take the advice of the finance committee this year. So with that, Tony, you want to call the vote?
Counselor Clucci,
Yes.
Counselor Glystein,
Yes.
Counselor Anderson,
Yes.
Counselor Katarina,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
and Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
That's unanimous. Thank you.
We're now on the main motion as amended, which I'm going to just go ahead and call the vote because I don't believe anybody needs round 2. So Tony, with that?
Counselor Clucci,
Yes.
Counselor Glystein,
Yes.
Counselor Anderson,
Yes.
Counselor Katarina,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
and Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you. That was unanimous.
And with that, we're on to order number 21037. It's an act on the request to sign the warrant for the special municipal election scheduled for Tuesday, June 15th, 2021 at Scarborough High School Alumni Gym. Appoint the warden and the warden clerk, set the hours for voter registration, and act on the appointments of the election clerks pursuant to Chapter 200, Article 8, nominations and elections, and authorize the town clerk to make any additional appointments as necessary. Tony?
This is a normal process that we follow for each election, and we'll have to have people come in to sign the warrant tomorrow. And as
Okay.
soon as we sign it, we can actually post it to the various places throughout town.
Good. And this date is a week later than I think what the normal cadence of the year is. So Counselor Hamel, I'll let you make a motion, explain the rationale and then make a motion and look for a second.
So I'd like to make a motion that this be changed to a later date, and by so doing, that would give us an opportunity for other meetings and additional process to work through the challenges that are ahead of us.
The later date's already on this. I just wanted you to tee it up to explain why it's June 15th. Yep.
So
So the June 15th date, which is the later date, we're already voting on it. I just
Right.
giving you the opportunity to explain why it says June 15th and not the 8th, June 8th.
So the reason is that there is no state ballot this year, and we're normally required to align with that. So because of that, it gave us the opportunity to take advantage of additional time. And the value of that is, just in my humble opinion, is last year we had, by comparison, I would argue we had somewhat simpler tasks. We were really drawing the line on expenses. This year, we're going to be dealing with, in a shorter period of time, trying to figure out how to restore and where to restore and what not to. So I felt that, given also a fair amount of public input and requests that we expand the time where possible, that's really led to us bringing this up yesterday. I want to say a quick note of special thanks to the flexibility of the town manager and the town clerk, who heard about this yesterday about 2 o'clock. So thanks for being able to turn on a dime and enabling us to consider this revision.
Thank you. And I'll take that as a motion. And is there a second? Any discussion?
Second.
Nope.
I turned my mic.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Any discussion? Counselor Geisting?
So yeah, I think, this is a good timing. And hearkening back, my apologies a little bit to April's comments and superintendent's. So I do think, that on the finance committee, and I won't speak for my fellow finance committee members, but I do think that we do believe that we've got to kind of put more parameters around the expectations for the town budget and the school budget. and not just say, well, here's the bottom line and everybody go figure it out. So I think we're committed to taking a look at that for sure, to April's point. And then, I think a delay of a week, I think the superintendent, made a good point about, their summer hiring plan. And I think a week is hopefully not going to impact that dramatically, but it may give us a little more time. And I think Councilor Hamel said it pretty elegantly, like, it's there's a lot to look at, and especially when you're starting at the point we started and the point we want to get down to. So I think an extra week is good. If we don't need it, we wrap up the second reading and the referendum happens. So if we need it, we have it.
Any others? Just to quick add to that, just so part of the conversation is also, I don't think the town manager will know the specifics about our federal funding from the relief package until May. So this also gives us just one more week of runway time to see what that looks like. So we talked about it yesterday during our meeting with the town manager and thought it's worth noting here that that was another rationale for making this a week later than usual. Any others? Okay, Tony?
Counselor Clucci,
Yes.
Counselor Glystein,
Yes.
Counselor Anderson,
Yes.
Counselor Katarina,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
and Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
Unanimous, thank you.
And lastly, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved,
Second.
or second, or
Or-
whoever.
One or the other.
Tony?
Counselor Clucci,
Yes.
Counselor Glystein,
Yes.
Counselor Anderson,
Yes.
Counselor Katarina,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
and Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.